The only thing that you have to do is rise and sparkle as a full-fledged life. Because when you're doing wonderfully well, you will do what is needed. Then he will not ask, how do I wake up in the morning and be motivated? You should not be a motivated person. Generally, when we say somebody is motivated, it means they have an agenda of their own. Life has no agenda. It's for you to be a full-fledged life. A grasshopper is trying to be a full-fledged grasshopper, earthworm is trying to be a full-fledged earthworm, a bird is trying to be a full-fledged bird, a tree is trying to be a full-fledged tree. A human being should strive to become a full-fledged human being. This is all our business is. But each one of us start creating our own agendas and doing all kinds of things. No, you're just a piece of life, don't take yourself too seriously. Because before you and me, countless number of people have come and gone. Yes or no? Where are they? All those people. You think they were all idiots? They were all idiots and they died, is it? No, they were also like you, maybe they were also officers, maybe they were kings more than you, all kinds of things, all topsoil now. This will also become topsoil. Just a little bit of time. Life is a bit of a sparkle. How old is your son, sir? 25. So 27 years ago, where was he, sir? So if somebody is not here, we say they're dead, isn't it? 27 years ago, he was dead. We will give him 100 years, sir. 80 years later, he will be again dead. Yes or no? So, 27 years ago, how long was he dead, sir? Huh? Long time. So, 85 years later or 80 years later, how long will he be dead, sir? Very long time. So all of us will be dead for a very long time. We're alive just for a brief amount of time. Yes, very brief amount of time. We will be dead for a very long time. I want you to look at it in this perspective. How long will you be dead? You can't imagine. So let us say 10,000 years we are dead, or 100,000 years we are dead, or 1,000,000 years we are dead, all right? How long are you alive compared to that? Very, very brief. What you call as life is a brief sparkle. The only thing that you have to do is rise and sparkle as a full-fledged life. When something is needed around us, we will do that naturally, because when you're doing wonderfully well, you will do what is needed, isn't it? When you're miserable, you will be motivated. Yes. Tell me, when you're very happy, have you looked at yourself? How nice and wonderful you are, you're willing to do anything for anybody, bend backwards if necessary, yes or no? When you're little frustrated, ooh, how difficult it is. So, don't teach your children to become motivated about something. These are all nonsense that's coming from the West, all those trashy self-help books. Motivate yourself, build confidence, believe in yourself. You believed in God and destroyed so much of this world. Now you believe in yourself, what will you do? All this trash is coming from the West. You don't have to be motivated. You just have to see how this is alive to its fullest possible level right now. If it's fully alive, it will do everything that it can do, isn't it? What it cannot do, anyway it will not do. If you watch a bird in the morning, there are birds here, you know. Where do you come from, sir? Delhi? Huh? Tamil Nadu, Chennai? In Chennai, maybe there are no birds at all except kaka. Huh? So here if you see a bird, sir, little bird, in the morning, it's doing everything that it can do, isn't it? Hello? Everything that it can do, it'll spare nothing. That's all you have to do. Everything that you can do. What you cannot do, perfectly okay. A worm cannot do what a bird does, a bird cannot do what an elephant does, an elephant cannot do what we do, yes or no? But we must be doing what we can do. What we cannot do, it doesn't matter. What we can do must happen. For this, all that's needed is, you must understand life is a very brief sparkle. It's just poop, poop, poop and gone. Yes or no? Before you know what's happening, you'll be gone. Unless you're miserable. Miserable people have a long life. Only they feel life is long. If you're very joyful, poof, it'll be gone before you know what's happening. Have you noticed a specific day, you're very happy, 24 hours, gone like that. Little miserable, 24 hours, feel like 10,000 years. Yes or no? So time is a very relative experience, but if you compare to how long you will be dead, you will be dead for millions of years. You're alive just for a few, little bit. This time, don't be motivated by anything. All that you have to do is you must become a full-fledged life. 25-year-old boy, he shouldn't become a motivated human being. He must just be burst of life. Then he will not ask, how do I wake up in the morning and be motivated? What are you motivated about? Nothing. If you're alive, you'll bounce out of your bed, isn't it? But now, the way we eat, the way we breathe, the way we do things, and intoxicants and stuff, everything, generally the body wants to die. It doesn't want to be alive. People, it's all from the West. People created this culture, thank God it's Friday. The statistics show that 70% of the Americans hate their jobs, not dislike, hate. 5 days if you do something that you hate, I don't know how you enjoy the weekend. All that happens in the weekend is, you're knocked out. You are either drunk or you're drugged or you're indulging in something, okay? Beyond that, no great shakes joy is happening, all right? Yes or no? 70% of the people hate their jobs. How do you live like this? Why the hell are you doing something that you hate? First of all, if you don't love doing what you're doing, you shouldn't do it, always somebody will do it. Hello? Someone comes to me, he's heading a multinational company, global CEO. He comes in a distressed state and said, Guru, I can't take this. They're putting so much pressure on me every day, can't take this. Then I look at him, raise my hands and say, may you be fired. Sadhguru, what are you saying? I said, hey man, you're suffering so much. What is the point? At least if you're fired, you can walk on the beach, huh? Maybe somebody else will do this job little more joyfully than you. You think you're spinning the planet or what? Hello? What is the hardship? Are you spinning the planet? Are you pushing it around the sun? Everything is free, isn't it? Hello? Everything is free. All you have to do is be a full-fledged life. Don't constipate yourself with too many ideas, philosophies, belief systems, stupid thoughts and emotions with which you get constipated and become less than who you are. No, you should not ever be less than what you can be, isn't it? You don't have to be as good as somebody else, and you can never be, because everybody is different. But you should not be less than what you can be. So you don't need motivation for this, you need aliveness. At 25, if you're not very alive, you need some cranking. Chennai. Chennai usually is alive very early in the morning. It's not like Bangalore. Bangalore wakes up at 10 o'clock. Chennai is alive at 5 o'clock in the morning generally. So don't motivate your children, it's not necessary. You have to see how they're joyful and alive. In this, their body and their intelligence will work at its best. Oh, will they just be happy and not do anything? You tell me, are you willing to do more when you're happy? Or are you willing to do more when you're unhappy? When you're happy, you're willing to do anything that is needed, isn't it? You're willing to forego your food, your sleep and do what you need to do when you're very happy, isn't it? When you're unhappy, oh, how hard it is to get anything done from you. Yes or no? So a wife sent a telegram to her husband, who was in a 3-month training, IAS, She sent a telegram, start worrying, rest will follow in a letter. Don't do this to yourself. At 25 you start worrying, rest will follow. If you understand all human experience is coming from within, how can you not engineer yourself to perfection? Engineering essentially means to…
Hope is a feeling of expectation and desire for something to come. These hope quotes will leave you with both and help you feel hopeful again. When we are hopeful, we are optimistic and believe positive things happen to us and world. So whether you want to know what hope really is, or just want to read hopeful words to renew your mindset, we've got the perfect hope quote for you. Top 10 Hope Quotes. Hope is the only bee that makes honey without flowers. Robert Ingersoll. May your choices reflect your hopes, not your fears. Nelson Mandela. Hope is one of the principal springs that keep mankind in motion. Thomas Fuller. We need hope, or else we cannot endure. Sarah J. Maas. Everything that is done in this world is done by hope. Martin Luther. We promise according to our hopes and perform according to our fears. François de la Rochefoucauld. Hope springs eternal in the human breast. Alexander Pope. Let your hopes, not your hurts, shape your future. Robert H. Schuller. Quotes about hope. Oft hope is born when all is forlorn. J.R.R. Tolkien. Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. Emily Dickinson. Hope is a verb with its shirt sleeves rolled up. David Orr. Most of the important things in the world have been accomplished by people who have kept on trying when there seemed to be no hope at all. Dale Carnegie. As long as we have hope, we have direction, the energy to move, and the map to move by. Lao Tzu. Hope and change are hard-fought things. Michelle Obama. Hope is the only universal liar who never loses his reputation for veracity. Robert Ingersoll. Hope has a cost. Hope is not comfortable or easy. Hope requires personal risk. It is not about the right attitude. Hope is not about peace of mind. Hope is action. Hope is doing something. Chris Hedges. Hope itself is like a star, not to be seen in the sunshine of prosperity, and only to be discovered in the night of adversity. Charles Haddon Spurgeon. Hope is the companion of power, and mother of success, for whoso hopes strongly has within him the gift of miracles. Samuel Smiles. Hope is medicine for a soul that's sick and tired. Eric Swinson. This new day is too dear, with its hopes and invitations, to waste a moment on the yesterdays. Ralph Waldo Emerson. To live without hope is to cease to live. Fyodor Dostoevsky. When the world says give up, hope whispers try it one more time. Unknown. In an age of hope, men looked up at the night sky and saw the heavens. In an age of hopelessness, they call it simply space. Peter Kreeft. To wish was to hope, and to hope was to expect. Jane Austen, Sense and Sensibility. Hope sees the invisible, feels the intangible, and achieves the impossible. Helen Keller. A strong mind always hopes, and has always cause to hope. Thomas Carlyle. There is no hope unmingled with fear, and no fear unmingled with hope. Baruch Spinoza. Hope is the word which God has written on the brow of every man. Victor Hugo. Hope is such a beautiful word, but it often seems very fragile. Life is still being needlessly hurt and destroyed. Michael Jackson. Hope is a force of nature. Don't let anyone tell you different. Jim Butcher. Hope, it is the quintessential human delusion, simultaneously the source of your greatest strength, and your greatest weakness. The Architect, The Matrix Reload. Not losing hope. Never lose hope. Never forget the power of intentions and desires. Devasish Mrida. When you're at the end of your rope, tie a knot and hold on. Theodore Roosevelt. Keep a little fire burning, however small, however hidden. Cormac McCarthy, The Road. We dream to give ourselves hope. To stop dreaming, well, that's like saying you can never change your fate. Amy Tan. Never lose hope. Storms make people stronger and never last forever. Roy T. Bennett. If you have made mistakes, there is always another chance for you. You may have a fresh start any moment you choose, for this thing we call failure is not the falling down, but the staying down. Mary Pickford. Even in the mud and scum of things, something always sings. Ralph Waldo Emerson. None of us knows what might happen even the next minute, yet still we go forward. Because we trust. Because we have faith. Paulo Coelho. That was all a man needed, hope. It was lack of hope that discouraged a man. Charles Bukowski, Factotum. It's the children the world almost breaks who grow up to save it. Frank Warren. In a world filled with hate, we must still dare to hope. In a world filled with anger, we must still dare to comfort. In a world filled with despair, we must still dare to dream. And in a world filled with distrust, we must still dare to believe. Michael Jackson. When you have lost hope, you have lost everything. And when you think all is lost, when all is dire and bleak, there is always hope. Pittacus Lore. 2 words will help you cope when you run low on hope: accept and trust. Charles Swindoll. We must accept finite disappointment, but never lose infinite hope. Martin Luther King Jr. If you lose hope, somehow you lose the vitality that keeps moving, you lose that courage to be, that quality that helps you go on in spite of it all. And so today I still have a dream. Martin Luther King Jr. It is not despair, for despair is only for those who see the end beyond all doubt. We do not. J.R.R. Tolkien, The Fellowship of the Ring. My life is a perfect graveyard of buried hopes. Ellen Montgomery, Anne of Green Gables. Never talk defeat. Use words like hope, belief, faith, victory. Norman Vincent Peale. In a time of destruction, create something. Maxine Hong Kingston. But I know, somehow, that only when it is dark enough can you see the stars. Martin Luther King Jr. The road that is built in hope is more pleasant to the traveler than the road built in despair, even though they both lead to the same destination. Marion Zimmer Bradley, The Fall of Atlantis. Where hope would otherwise become hopelessness, it becomes faith. Robert Rowe. Just as despair can come to one another only from other human beings, hope, too, can be given to one only by other human beings. Hope is medicine for a soul that's sick and tired. Eric Swinson. Hope has a cost. Hope is not comfortable or easy. Hope requires personal risk. It is not about the right attitude. Hope is not about peace of mind. Hope is action. Hope is doing something. Chris Hedges. Hope itself is like a star, not to be seen in the sunshine of prosperity, and only to be discovered in the night of adversity. Charles Haddon Spurgeon. Hope is the companion of power, and mother of success, For whoso hopes strongly has within him the gift of miracles. Samuel smiles. This new day is too dear, with its hopes and invitations, to waste a moment on the yesterdays. Ralph Waldo Emerson. Hope is a good breakfast, but it is a bad supper. Sir Francis Bacon. Hope is not an emotion, it's a way of thinking or a cognitive process. Brené Brown, The Gifts of Imperfection. Of all else that one endures, hope is a cheap and universal cure. Abraham Cowley. Hope is important because it can make the present moment less difficult to bear. If we believe that tomorrow will be better, we can bear hardship today. Teton Yet Han. Hope is like a road in the country. There was never a road, but when many people walk on it, the road comes into existence. Lin Yutong. Hope is that thing inside us that insists, despite all the evidence to the contrary, that something better awaits us if we have the courage to reach for it and to work for it and to fight for it. Barack Obama. Hope itself is a species of happiness, and, perhaps, the chief happiness which this world affords, but, like all other pleasures immoderately enjoyed, the excesses of hope must be expiated by pain. Samuel Johnson. Hope rouses, as nothing else can arouse, a passion for the possible. William Sloane Coffin. All human wisdom is summed up in two words, wait and hope. Alexander Dumas, The Count of Monte Cristo. Once you choose hope, anything's possible. Christopher Reeve. However bad life may seem, there's always something you can do and succeed at. Where there's life, there's hope. Stephen Hawking. I am prepared for the worst, but hope for the best. Benjamin Disraeli. The miserable have no other medicine, but only hope. William Shakespeare. Carve a tunnel of hope through the dark mountain of disappointment. Martin Luther King Jr. Hope is important because it can make the present moment less difficult to bear. If we believe that tomorrow will be better, we can bear hardship today. Teton Yet Han. Walk on with hope in your heart, and you'll never walk alone. Shah Rukh Khan. In the unlikely story that is America, there has never been anything false about hope. Barack Obama. He who has health has hope, and he who has hope has everything. Thomas Carlyle. Hope is a renewable option. If you run out of it at the end of the day, you get to start over in the morning. Barbara Kingsolver. Hope is the power of being cheerful in circumstances that we know to be desperate. G.K. Chesterton. Hope never abandons you, you abandon it. George Weinberg. Where there is no hope, it is incumbent on us to invent it. Albert Camus. Hope is being able to see that there is light despite all of the darkness. Desmond Tutu. Hope is definitely not the same thing as optimism. It is not the conviction that something will turn out well, but the certainty that something makes sense, regardless of how it turns out. Václav Havel. In reality, hope is the worst of all evils, because it prolongs man's torments. Friedrich Nietzsche. All the interests of my reason, speculative as well as practical, combine in the three following questions. 1. What can I know? 2. What ought I to do? 3. What may I hope? Immanuel Kant. Hope is outreaching desire with expectancy of good. It is a characteristic of all living beings. Hopeful quotes. Hopeful, we are halfway to where we want to go. Hopeless, we are lost forever. Lao Tzu. Hang on to your hat. Hang on to your hope. And wind the clock, for tomorrow is another day. E.B. White. I find hope in the darkest of days, and focus in the brightest. I do not judge the universe. Dalai Lama. Learn from yesterday, live for today, hope for tomorrow. The important thing is not to stop questioning. Albert Einstein. Faith goes up the stairs that love has built and looks out the windows which hope has opened. Charles Haddon Spurgeon. Consult not your fears but your hopes and dreams. Think not about your frustrations, but about your unfulfilled potential. Concern yourself not with what you tried and failed in, but with what is still possible for you to do. Pope John XXIII. I don't think of all the misery, but of the beauty that still remains. Anne Frank. Yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, today is a gift of God, which is why we call it the present. Bill Keane. What seems to us as bitter trials are often blessings in disguise. Oscar Wilde. Listen to the musts, child. Listen to the don'ts. Listen to the shoulds, the impossibles, the wants. Listen to the never haves, then listen close to me. Anything can happen, child. Anything can be. Shel Silverstein. They say a person needs just 3 things to be truly happy in this world: someone to love, something to do, and something to hope for. Tom Bodett. The best bridge between despair and hope is a good night's sleep. E. Joseph Kossman. No matter where you are on your journey, that's exactly where you need to be. The next road is always ahead. Oprah Winfrey. The best way to not feel hopeless is to get up and do something. Don't wait for good things to happen to you. If you go out and make some good things happen, you will fill the world with hope, you will fill yourself with hope. Barack Obama. The very least you can do in your life is figure out what you hope for. And the most you can do is live inside that hope. Not admire it from a distance but live right in it, under its roof. Barbara Kingsolver, Animal Dreams. You can cut all the flowers but you cannot keep spring from coming. Pablo Neruda. Character consists of what you do on the 3rd and 4th tries. James A. Michener. It does not matter how slowly you go as long as you do not stop. Confucius. A baby is God's opinion that the world should go on. Carl Sandburg. Only in the darkness can you see the stars. Martin Luther King Jr. The darkest hours are just before dawn. English proverb. This is where it all begins. Everything starts here, today. David Nichols, One Day. Keep your face to the sun and you will never see the shadows. Helen Keller. A sobering thought: what if, at this very moment, I am living up to my full potential? Jane Wagner. Never give up on something that you can't go a day without thinking about. Winston Churchill. We are made to persist. That's how we find out who we are. Tobias Wolff. Rock bottom became the solid foundation on which I rebuilt my life. J.K. Rowling. There are far, far better things ahead than anything we leave behind. C.S. Lewis. Many of life's failures are people who did not realize how close they were to success when they gave up. Thomas Edison. You will face many defeats in your life, but never let yourself be defeated. Maya Angelou. Success is not final, failure is not fatal, it is the courage to continue that counts. Winston Churchill. You cannot swim for new horizons until you have courage to lose sight of the shore. William Faulkner. You are not here merely to make a living. You are here in order to enable the world to live more amply, with greater vision, with a finer spirit of hope and achievement. You are here to enrich the world, and you impoverish yourself if you forget the errand. In the midst of winter, I found there was, within me, an invincible summer. Albert Camus. However long the night, the dawn will break. African proverb. Children are the world's most valuable resource and its best hope for the future. John F. Kennedy. I have learned to use the word impossible with the greatest caution. Werner von Braun. There is no medicine like hope, no incentive so great, and no tonic so powerful as expectation of something tomorrow. Thank you for watching. Like, share and subscribe for more. You have the choice. 55 of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s most inspiring motivational quotes. Honor King's lasting legacy by reading 55 of Martin Luther King Jr.'s best quotes. Some you may have heard already and some you probably haven't, but all of them worth repeating and contemplating as we celebrate equality, faith, and the profound truths of his message. From MLK quotes about peaceful protests to more, here are 55 MLK quotes. Martin Luther King quotes. 1. We must accept finite disappointment, but never lose infinite hope. 2. Darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that. 3. Forgiveness is not an occasional act, it is a permanent attitude. 4. I have decided to stick with love. Hate is too great a burden to bear. 5. Faith is taking the first step even when you don't see the whole staircase. 6. Life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? 7. Never succumb to the temptation of bitterness. 8. Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. 9. We may have all come on different ships, but we're in the same boat now. 10. The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy. 11. Change does not roll in on the wheels of inevitability, but comes through continuous struggle. 12. Love is the only force capable of transforming an enemy into friend. 13. There comes a time when one must take a position that is neither safe, nor politic, nor popular, but he must take it because conscience tells him it is right. 14. Let no man pull you solo as to hate him. 15. If you can't fly then run, if you can't run then walk, if you can't walk then crawl, but whatever you do you have to keep moving forward. 16. Intelligence plus character, that is the goal of true education. 17. Out of the mountain of despair, a stone of hope. 18. The time is always right to do what is right. 19. Be a bush if you can't be a tree. If you can't be a highway, just be a trail. If you can't be a sun, be a star. For it isn't by size that you win or fail. Be the best of whatever you are. 20. We've got some difficult days ahead. But it really doesn't matter with me now because I've been to the mountaintop. I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. 21. For when people get caught up with that which is right and they are willing to sacrifice for it, there is no stopping point short of victory. 22. I believe that unarmed truth and unconditional love will have the final word in reality. This is why right, temporarily defeated, is stronger than evil triumphant. 23. True peace is not merely the absence of tension, it is the presence of justice. 24. There is nothing more tragic than to find an individual bogged down in the length of life, devoid of breath. 25. Shallow understanding from people of goodwill is more frustrating than absolute misunderstanding from people of ill will. 26. A lie cannot live. 27. There can be no deep disappointment where there is not deep love. 28. Man must evolve for all human conflict a method which rejects revenge, aggression and retaliation. The foundation of such a method is love. 29. There comes a time when people get tired of being pushed out of the glittering sunlight of life's July and left standing amid the piercing chill of an alpine November. 30. We must develop and maintain the capacity to forgive. He who is devoid of the power to forgive is devoid of the power to love. There is some good in the worst of us and some evil in the best of us. When we discover this, we are less prone to hate our enemies. 31. Nonviolence is absolute commitment to the way of love. Love is not emotional bash, it is not empty sentimentalism. It is the active outpouring of one's whole being into the being of another. 32. We are not makers of history. We are made by history. 33. Rarely do we find men who willingly engage in hard, solid thinking. There is an almost universal quest for easy answers and half-baked solutions. Nothing pains some people more than having to think. 34. We must build dikes of courage to hold back the flood of fear. 35. Let us not seek to satisfy our thirst for freedom by drinking from the cup of bitterness and hatred. 36. Man must evolve for all human conflict, a method which rejects revenge, aggression and retaliation. The foundation of such a method is love. Welcome everybody to our channel. 85 Spring Quotes to Make Your Soul Bloom. After the cold and dark days of winter, the spring season brings new life and fresh hope to the world. These spring quotes will do the same for you. After thawing snow and blooming flowers, spring means we are finally able to enjoy time outside again. Though spring might not look quite as idealized as this where you are, it is a welcome period of rebirth and inspiration all the same. So here are the best spring quotes to inspire you to make the most of this season of rebirth and rejuvenation. Top 10 Spring Quotes. Spring work is going on with joyful enthusiasm. John Muir. Blossom by blossom the spring begins. Algernon Charles Swinburne. Every spring is the only spring, a perpetual astonishment. Ellis Peters. You can cut all the flowers but you cannot keep spring from coming. Pablo Neruda. No matter how long the winter, spring is sure to follow. English proverb. Spring is nature's way of saying, let's party. Robin Williams. Spring is when you feel like whistling, even with a shoe full of slush. Doug Larson. April hath put a spirit of youth in everything. William Shakespeare. Quotes about spring. In the spring, at the end of the day, you should smell like dirt. Margaret Atwood. Spring unlocks the flowers to paint the laughing soil. Bishop Reginald Haber. Spring, a lovely reminder of how beautiful change can truly be. Anonymous. Spring makes its own statement, so loud and clear that the gardener seems to be only one of the instruments, not the composer. Jeffrey B. Charlesworth. In the spring, I have counted 136 different kinds of weather inside of 24 hours. Mark Twain. Now every field is clothed with grass, and every tree with leaves, now the woods put forth their blossoms, and the year assumes its gay attire. Virgil. Is the spring coming? Dodit is the sun shining on the rain and the rain falling on the sunshine. Frances Hodgson Burnett, The Secret Garden. In springtime, love is carried on the breeze. Watch out for flying passion and kisses whizzing by your head. Emma Racine Defleur. Some old-fashioned things like fresh air and sunshine are hard to beat. Laura Ingalls Wilder. Don't wait for someone to bring you flowers. Plant your own garden and decorate your own soul. Luther Burbank. Spring won't let me stay in this house any longer. I must get out and breathe the air deeply again. Gustav Mahler. When spring came, even the false spring, there were no problems except where to be happiest. The only thing that could spoil a day was people, and if you could keep from making engagements, each day had no limits. People were always the limiters of happiness except for the very few that were as good as spring itself. Ernest Hemingway. If people did not love one another, I really don't see what use there would be in having any spring. Victor Hugo. It was one of those March days when the sun shines hot and the wind blows cold, when it is summer in the light, and winter in the shade. Charles Dickens. That is one good thing about this world. There are always sure to be more springs. L. M. Montgomery. Nostalgia in reverse, the longing for yet another strange land, grew especially strong in spring. Vladimir Nabokov. Spring will come and so will happiness. Hold on. Life will get warmer. Anita Krisen. It's spring fever. That is what the name of it is. And when you've got it, you want, oh, you don't quite know what it is you do want, but it just fairly makes you. Science has never drummed up quite as effective a tranquilizing agent as a sunny spring day. W. Earl Hall. What a strange thing to be alive beneath cherry blossoms. Kobayashi Isa. Nature gives to every time and season some beauties of its own. Charles Dickens. I love spring anywhere, but if I could choose I would always greet it in a garden. Ruth Stout. If you've never been thrilled to the very edges of your soul by a flower in spring bloom, maybe your soul has never been in bloom. Otto Favio. The earth laughs in flowers. Ralph Waldo Emerson. If we had no winter, the spring would not be so pleasant. If we did not sometimes taste adversity, prosperity would not be so welcome. Anne Bradstreet. I suppose the best kind of spring morning is the best weather God has to offer. Dodie Smith. The flowers of late winter and early spring occupy places in our hearts well out of proportion to their size. Gertrude Wister. We can't possibly have a summer love. So many people have tried that the names become proverbial. Summer is only the unfulfilled promise of spring, a charlatan in place of the warm balmy nights I dream of in April. It's a sad season of life without growth, it has no day. F. Scott Fitzgerald, This Side of Paradise. If winter comes, can spring be far behind? Percy Bysshe Shelley. Aprils have never meant much to me, autumns seem that season of beginning, spring. Truman Capote. Because the bird song might be pretty, but it's not for you they sing, and if you think my winter is too cold, you don't deserve my spring. Aaron Hansen. A kind word is like a spring day. Russian proverb. I enjoy the spring more than the autumn now. One does, I think, as one gets older. Virginia Woolf. It was such a spring day as breathes into a man an ineffable yearning, a painful sweetness, a longing that makes him stand motionless, looking at the leaves or grass, and flaying out his arms to embrace he knows not what. John Galsworthy. Can words describe the fragrance of the very breath of spring? Neltia Blanchin. Or maybe spring is the season of love and fall the season of mad lust. Spring for flirting but fall for the untamed delicious wild thing. Elizabeth Cohen. Always it's spring and everyone's in love and flowers pick themselves. E. Cummings. When all at once I saw a crowd, a host, of golden daffodils, beside the lake, beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. William Wordsworth. Spring is the fountain of love for thirsty winter. Munia Khan. Spring's greatest joy beyond a doubt is when it brings the children out. Edgar Guest. Spring shows what God can do with a drab and dirty world. Virgil A. Craft. My favorite weather is bird chirping weather. Terry Gillimetz. The coming of spring. The first real day of spring is like the first time a boy holds your hand. A flood of skin-tingling warmth consumes you, and everything shines with a fresh, colorful glow, making you forget that anything as cold and harsh as winter ever existed. Rochelle E. Goodrich. People ask me what I do in winter when there's no baseball. I'll tell you what I do. I stare out the window and wait for spring. Roger Hornsby. The beautiful spring came, and when nature resumes her loveliness, the human soul is apt to revive also. Harriet Ann Jacobs. Behold, my friends, the spring is come, the earth has gladly received the embraces of the sun, and we shall soon see the results of their love. Sitting Bull. The spring wakes us, nurtures us and revitalizes us. How often does your spring come? If you are a prisoner of the calendar, it comes once a year. If you are creating authentic power, it comes frequently, or very frequently. Gary Zukov. The first day of spring is one thing, and the first spring day is another. The difference between them is sometimes as great as a month. Henry Van Dyke. The sun was warm but the wind was chill, you know how it is with an April day. Robert Frost. April prepares her green traffic light and the world thinks go. Christopher Morley. Never cut a tree down in the wintertime. Never make a negative decision in the low time. Never make your most important decisions when you are in your worst moods. Wait. Be patient. The storm will pass. The spring will come. Robert H. Schuller. The promise of spring's arrival is enough to get anyone through the bitter winter. Jen Selinsky. But only a person in the depths of despair neglected to look beyond winter to the spring that inevitably followed, bringing back color and life and hope. Mary Balogh. It is spring again. The earth is like a child that knows poems. Rainer Maria Rilke. Come with me into the woods, where spring is advancing, as it does, no matter what, not being singular or a particular, but one of the forever gifts, and certainly visible. Mary Oliver. I had always planned to make a large painting of the early spring, when the first leaves are at the bottom of the trees, and they seem to float in space in a wonderful way. But the arrival of spring can't be done in one picture. David Hockney. You make me feel so young, you make me feel so spring has sprung. Frank Sinatra, you make me feel so young, rebirth and renewal. To be interested in the changing seasons is a happier state of mind than to be hopelessly in love with spring. George Santayana. I believe in process. I believe in 4 seasons. I believe that winter's tough, but spring's coming. I believe that there's a growing season. And I think that you realize that in life, you grow. You get better. Steve Sutherland. Spring passes and one remembers one's innocence. Summer passes and one remembers one's exuberance. Autumn passes and one remembers one's reverence. Winter passes and one remembers one's perseverance. Yoko Ono. The day the Lord created hope was probably the same day He created spring. Bernard Williams. I think that no matter how old or infirm I may become, I will always plant a large garden in the spring. Who can resist the feelings of hope and joy that one gets from participating in nature's rebirth? Edward G. Obie. It is spring again. The earth is like a child that knows poems by heart. Rainer Maria Rilke. I glanced out the window at the signs of spring. The sky was almost blue, the trees were almost budding, the sun was almost bright. Millard Kaufman. No matter how chaotic it is, wildflowers will still spring up in the middle of nowhere. Sheryl Crow. Spring drew on, and a greenness grew over those brown beds, which, freshening daily, suggested the thought that hope traversed them at night, and left each morning brighter traces of her steps. Charlotte Bronte. From the end spring new beginnings. Pliny the Elder. Springtime is the land awakening. The March winds are the morning yawn. Lewis Grizzard. Never yet was a springtime, when the buds forgot to bloom. Margaret Elizabeth Sangster. To plant a garden is to believe in tomorrow. Audrey Hepburn. It's spring again. I can hear the birds sing again. See the flowers start to bud. See young people fall in love. Lou Rawls, spring again. Flowers don't worry about how they're going to bloom. They just open up and turn toward the light, and that makes them beautiful. Jim Carrey. The magic in new beginnings is truly the most powerful of them all. Josiah Martin. I want to do to you what spring does with the cherry trees. Pablo Neruda. If you have a garden and a library, you have everything you need. Marcus Tullius Cicero. We hope you enjoyed these spring quotes and thoughts on the joys of springtime.
Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos. Remember, you have the choice.
112 Benjamin Franklin quotes that light the world. In the early 1750s he began studying electricity. His famous kite experiment and other observations verified the nature of electricity and lightning and brought Franklin international fame. Politics soon became an interest of Franklin's. In 1757, he traveled to England to represent Pennsylvania in its fight with the descendants of the Penn family over who should represent the colony. He stayed in England to 1775 as a colonial representative of several states. Later, Franklin was elected to the Second Continental Congress and worked on a team of 5 to draft the Declaration of Independence. Though most of the writing is Thomas Jefferson's, most of the contribution is Franklin's. In 1776 Franklin signed the Declaration of Independence, and then sailed to France as an ambassador to the court of Louis XVI. Franklin died on April 17, 1790 at the age of 84, and 20,000 people attended the funeral. These quotes represent his electric personality. Benjamin Franklin quotes: 1. The wit of conversation consists more in finding it in others, than showing a great deal yourself. He who goes out of your company pleased with his own facetiousness and ingenuity, will the sooner come into it again. 2. Be not sick too late, nor well too soon. 3. There are two ways of being happy: we may either diminish our wants or augment our means, either will do, the result is the same, and it is for each man to decide for himself, and do that which happens to be the easiest. If you are idle or sick or poor, however hard it may be to diminish your wants, it will be harder to augment your means. 4. If you are active and prosperous, or young, or in good health, it may be easier for you to augment your means than to diminish your wants. But if you are wise, you will do both at the same time, young or old, rich or poor, sick or well, and if you are wise, you will do both in such a way as to augment the general happiness of society. 5. Fear to do ill, and you need fear naught else. 6. Some, to make themselves considerable, pursue learning, others grasp at wealth, some aim at being thought witty, and others are only careful to make the most of a handsome person. But what is wit, or wealth, or form, or learning, when compared with virtue? It is true we love the handsome, we applaud the learned, and we fear the rich and powerful, but we even worship and adore the virtuous. 7. A learned blockhead is a greater blockhead than an ignorant one. 8. It is a common error in friends, when they would extol their friends, to make comparisons, and to depreciate the merits of others. 9. Each year one vicious habit rooted out, in time might make the worst man good throughout. 10. A new truth is a truth, an old error is an error. Having lived long, I have experienced many instances of being obliged by better information or fuller consideration to change opinions, even on important subjects, which I once thought right, but found to be otherwise. 11. The way to secure peace is to be prepared for war. They that are on their guard, and appear ready to receive their adversaries, are in much less danger of being attacked, than the supine, secure, and negligent. 12. A fat kitchen makes a lean will. 13. Don't go to the doctor with every distemper, nor to the lawyer with every quarrel, nor to the pot for every thirst. 14. I never saw an oft-removed tree, nor yet an oft-removed family, that throve so well as those that settled be. 15. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. 16. The worship of God is a duty. The hearing and reading of sermons may be useful, but if men rest in hearing and praying, as too many do, it is as if a tree should value itself in being watered and putting forth leaves, though it never produced any fruit. 17. Eat to live, and not live to eat. 18. A great talker may be no fool, but he is one that relies on him. 19. When you incline to have new clothes, look first well over the old ones, and see if you cannot shift with them another year, either by scouring, mending, or even patching if necessary. Remember, a patch on your coat, and money in your pocket, is better and more creditable, than a writ on your back, and no money to take it off. When there is so much to be done for yourself, your family, and your country, be up by peep of day. Let not the sun look down and say, "Inglorious here he lies." 20. Don't misinform your doctor nor your lawyer. 21. To expect people to be good, to be just, to be temperate, etc., without showing them how they should become so, seems like the ineffectual charity mentioned by the Apostle, which consisted in saying to the hungry, the cold and the naked, "Be ye fed, be ye warmed, be ye clothed," without showing them how they should get food, fire or clothing. 22. He's the best physician that knows the worthlessness of the most medicines. 23. Would you live with ease, do what you ought and not what you please. God heals, and the doctor takes the fees. Man and woman have each of them qualities and tempers in which the other is deficient, and which in union contribute to the common felicity. He that is known to pay punctually and exactly to the time he promises, may at any time, and on any occasion, raise all the money his friends can spare. This is sometimes of great use. When I am employed in serving others, I do not look upon myself as conferring favors, but as paying debts. I have received much kindness from men to whom I shall never have an opportunity of making the least direct returns, and numberless mercies from God, who is infinitely above being benefited by our services. Those kindnesses from men I can, therefore, only return on their fellow men, and I can only show my gratitude for those mercies from God by a readiness to help His other children. Life, like a dramatic piece, should not only be conducted with regularity, but it should finish handsomely. God helps them who help themselves. Men are subject to various inconveniences merely through lack of a small share of courage, which is a quality very necessary in the common occurrences of life, as well as in a battle. How many impertinences do we daily suffer with great uneasiness, because we have not courage enough to discover our dislike? The art of getting riches consists very much in thrift. All men are not equally qualified for getting money, but it is in the power of everyone alike to practice this virtue. Having been poor is no shame, being ashamed of it is. If a sound body and a sound mind, which is as much as to say health and virtue, are to be preferred before all other considerations, ought not men, in choosing a business either for themselves or children, to refuse such as are unwholesome for the body, and such as make a man too dependent, too much obliged to please others, and too much subjected to their humors in order to be recommended and get a livelihood. Our opinions are not in our own power, they are formed and governed much by circumstances that are often as inexplicable as they are irresistible. Tricks and treachery are the practice of fools, that don't have brains enough to be honest. After all, wedlock is the natural state of man. A bachelor is not a complete human being. He is like the odd half of a pair of scissors, which has not yet found its fellow, and therefore is not even half so useful as they might be together. I would advise you to read with a pen in hand, and enter in a little book short hints of what you find that is curious, or that may be useful, for this will be the best method of imprinting such particulars in your memory. By the collision of different sentiments, sparks of truth are struck out, and political light is obtained. The different factions, which at present divide us, aim all at the public good, the differences are only about the various modes of promoting it. Reading makes a full man, meditation a profound man, discourse a clear man. There are in life real evils enough, and it is folly to afflict ourselves with imaginary ones. It is time enough when the real ones arrive. Work as if you were to live 100 years. Pray as if you were to die tomorrow. Hope and faith may be more firmly built upon charity, than charity upon faith and hope. If a man empties his purse into his head, no man can take it away from him. An investment in knowledge always pays the best interest. One today is worth 2 tomorrows. I look upon death to be as necessary to our constitution as sleep. We shall rise refreshed in the morning. We need a revolution every 200 years, because all governments become stale and corrupt after 200 years. The best thing to give to your enemy is forgiveness, to an opponent, tolerance, to a friend, your heart, to your child, a good example, to a father, deference, to your mother, conduct that will make her proud of you, to yourself, respect, to all others, charity. Security without liberty is called prison. The best of all medicines are rest and fasting. Tell me and I forget. Teach me and I remember. Involve me and I learn. It seems to me, that if statesmen had a little more arithmetic, or were accustomed to calculation, wars would be much less frequent. The most trifling actions of a man, in my opinion, as well as the smallest features and lineaments of the face give a nice observer some notion of his mind. He who sacrifices freedom for security deserves neither. I never knew a man who was good at making excuses who was good at anything else. Common sense is something that everyone needs, few have, and none think they lack. Most men die from the neck up at age 25 because they stop dreaming. The ancients tell us what is best, but we must learn of the moderns what is fittest. I don't believe in stereotypes. I prefer to hate people on a more personal basis. To lengthen thy life, lessen thy meals. Do not anticipate trouble, or worry about what may never happen. Keep in the sunlight. Content makes poor men rich, discontentment makes rich men poor. Employ your time well, if you mean to get leisure. Well done is better than well said. Energy and persistence conquer all things. If you would know the value of money, go try to borrow some, for he that goes a borrowing goes a sorrowing. If you would persuade, you must appeal to interest rather than intellect. The eye of the master will do more work than both his hands. Creditors have better memories than debtors. Hide not your talents, they for use were made. What's a sundial in the shade? When the well's dry, we know the worth of water. To the generous mind the heaviest debt is that of gratitude, when it is not in our power to repay it. It is the working man who is the happy man. It is the idle man who is the miserable man. Words may show a man's wit but actions his meaning. There is much difference between imitating a man and counterfeiting him. If you know how to spend less than you get, you have the philosopher's stone. No nation was ever ruined by trade. Speak ill of no man, but speak all the good you know of everybody. Educate your children to self-control, to the habit of holding passion and prejudice and evil tendencies subject to an upright and reasoning will, and you have done much to abolish misery from their future and crimes from society. There are 3 things extremely hard: steal, a diamond, and to know one's self. Where liberty is, there is my country. By failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. We are all born ignorant, but one must work hard to remain stupid. He that falls in love with himself, will have no rivals. Wink at small faults, remember thou hast great ones. Necessity never made a good bargain. In this world nothing can be said to be certain, except death and taxes. Without continual growth and progress, such words as improvement, achievement, and success have no meaning. Beware of little expenses. A small leak will sink a great ship. The Constitution only gives people the right to pursue happiness. You have to catch it yourself. To succeed, jump as quickly at opportunities as you do at conclusions. Those that won't be counseled can't be helped. Quotes about Benjamin Franklin. People will accept your idea much more readily if you tell them Benjamin Franklin said it first. David H. Comans. Benjamin Franklin's of today? Isidore Isaac Rabi. When Franklin drew the lightning from the clouds, he little dreamed that in the evolution of science his discovery would illuminate the torch of liberty for France and America. The rays from this beacon, lighting this gateway to the continent, will welcome the poor and the persecuted with the hope and promise of homes and citizenship. Chauncey Depew. As an answer to those who are in the habit of saying to every new fact, what is its use? Dr. Franklin says to such, what is its use? The answer of the experimentalist would be, endeavor to make it useful. Michael Faraday. Whilst I am writing to a philosopher and a friend, I can scarcely forget that I am also writing to the greatest statesman of the present, or perhaps of any century, who spread the happy contagion of liberty among his countrymen. Erasmus Darwin, Letter to Benjamin Franklin. Thank you for watching. Like, share and subscribe for more. You have the choice.